Marriage is what brings us together today, although you do not need to restrict your questions, comments, conundrums, or snarks to marriage. Whatever you want, idea@wretched.org. To the mailbag we go from Josh. Dear Sir Friel, now we're talking, why is it important for the wife to take on the last name of the husband? Got a question for you, Josh. Why does the wife even take on the last name of the husband anyway? Lo and behold, we have to find our answer starting in Genesis. Don't you hate it when Ken Ham is right? Again, we see a covenant being cut between a man and a woman. We also see roles described. We see one in authority and one in submission as they enter into this lifelong, till death do us part, covenant. Do we see a name change here? No, we don't. But as we make our way through the Bible and we see other lifelong contracts being cut, we see a name change. Consider Abraham. He didn't always have a Ham in his name. He was Avram. The H was injected. This is a little bit of sanctified imagination, but we think that the H was inserted to represent God's name. He was once Avram of Ur, but now he's in a covenant with God. We see a name change. Now, as we make our way through history, we in Western civilization have put together the concept that we see a contract, a lifelong till death do us part covenant between a man and a woman in Genesis, with other covenants where there was a name change, where two became one. It could be two men in a covenant, a contract over land issues, over some sort of business dealings, but the two would become one and they would exchange names. And we, because of what we see in Genesis, we also understand in our New Testament, in Ephesians 5, for instance, that the woman submits to the husband. We determined as a society the woman will legally change her last name. That's kind of the way we've been doing it. But here's the question. Do we see a command in the Bible that tells us, you got to do this? When a man and a woman come together in a marriage, the woman needs to take on the last name of the husband. And the answer is no, because regularly in the Bible, we don't even have last names. We just have name from where they came. That's it. So we don't have a command that the wife must take on the name of the husband. Instead, we see truths in historical narratives, and we've decided as a society that's the way we're going to do it. Well, our society wants to change that for various reasons. I suspect it's to throw off any of that old patriarchal concepts or the old ways that Christians used to do that. Besides, there's no difference between men and women in any way in roles and authority. Well, that's just preposterous. Therefore, we've got hyphenated names. Sometimes, I suspect, a husband will take the wife's name. But these days, there's a challenge to that, and I suspect it's even a challenge in Christian homes. What do we do with that? Our society does it that way. We see it kind of modeled that way in the Bible. That's how our culture came to those conclusions. Do we have to do it that way? And the answer is, why? For two reasons. Number one, culture. We live in a culture and we don't want to do disruptive things, anti-culture things. We see this in the Bible. We can argue over this one, but head coverings comes to mind. And do things the way the culture does. Don't go against the place that you're living. Just kind of fit in. So there's that aspect, but I think there's a second bigger question that needs to be answered from the young lady who doesn't like the idea of assuming losing her identity is to become one new unit together in a covenant contract. They've got to ask themselves the question about the ticker. This is a heart issue. Why wouldn't a young lady want to do that? That, to me, is getting to the heart of the issue of the heart. Work through that. I would not make a law where there is no law, but I would ask, what's the issue really? Why would you not want to do that? It is culturally accepted still as a rule. That could change, but nevertheless, this is the soup we're swimming in. But why the heart? Why the rebellion? If it has to do with dreading the idea of submission, of losing my identity as I join another, then I think you're failing to remember what marriage is. Let's go back to the garden. This is a till death do us part covenant. You leave your parents. You start a new thing. This is a new deal. And the name change tells the world they have entered into something very special. Till death do them part. Why would you not want to be telling the world that? And so to you, Josh, I would say it's not a mandatory thing, but it most certainly is a heart thing. Well, thank you, Carol. I can't wait to try some of that low-sodium peppermint lasagna. Sounds delicious. Let's get to the weather, shall we? As you can see, we are going to have a massive warm front moving its way up the eastern seaboard, expecting temperatures upper 90s and low 100s. Unless, of course, you're outside of Christ. Then on Judgment Day, it is going to be hot. Back to you, Carol. Not only hot, weeping, gnashing of teeth. And so thirsty, your tongue's gonna be stuck to the roof of your mouth. You're just gonna wish for a storm to come through, which you folks down in the South can be expecting on Wednesday.